patient's name and choosing chart. To go over the chart view, you'll notice that some icons are dark and some are light. This tells you if there's information behind this icon. So by looking at the billing icon, it is dark. I can tell that there's information behind it. And by looking at the lab icon, I can tell that it's light. So I know that there's no information behind that. Going through the icons from left to right, we first have registration. The registration is the patient demographic area. We next have the office record. The office record is an uneditable area in the chart in which notes regarding the patient can be typed. For example, referral faxed or prescription faxed, etc. Once you've hit to the add to the office record, it automatically stamps the date, time, and the user and the note written. From here, you can't edit any of these. The next tab we have the encounters. Now the encounter is the note that the physician writes every time they encounter the patient. By clicking on this encounter tab, you can see a list of all of the encounters. Now to just view, I would double click on any of the encounters and can see what was written. Now to modify an encounter, I have it highlighted and I would click the modify button and I get the modify encounter screen. Go back to the chart here. Next we have the allergy tab. Now the allergy tab is just a free typing screen. If you go back to the registration, I'm going to do the modified view of the registration, and it works the same as the encounter. By clicking the modified button, I get the full registration screen, and I can see that the allergies are down here as well. Now both places coincide. If I type here, it shows up in the allergy section of the chart. If I type it in the allergy section of the chart, I can see it here in the modified registration. Now if I click back on allergy, we can see that we've added peanuts. The problem list is a chronological list of problems the patient has encountered. This screen can be populated from the billing form from the encounter, which I will go over in the encounter video. History is a basic templated history form that can be filled out on the patient. And to view it, I would just double click and I can see that what the last history was. Moving along, we have the lab tab. Now, labs can either be scanned in or directly downloaded from Alberta Health Services. Now, there's no labs in here, but if there was, you can see what the headings are. There would be the date, the physician, the exact test. And from here, I could double click to view the actual lab. Moving on to the meds tab. You'll notice that there's a little 6 in the med bottle. What that is a quick view of how many current medications that patient is currently on. And I can look over here in the current column and see that there are, in fact, 6 current medications. Now this, again, works the same way as the encounter and the registration. By clicking modify, I can get the actual medication list and I can come in here and double click and re-prescribe, see the prescriptions, etc. Next we have the billing tab, and the billing tab is basically a history of all billings for the patient. And you can see by the headings what you can see: agency, physician, the service date, the ICD code, the date billed, etc. And again, this works the same way. If I wanted to just see a claim, I can actually just double click on it. If I need to modify one, I have to highlight it and hit the modify button. From here, you'll notice it's a slightly different modification screen than just the double click to look. I'm just going to close out of that now. Also for the billing, I could go new. This actually works for the encounter or the registration, whatever it may be. If I wanted to do a new billing, by clicking on the billing tab, I click the new button and it comes up with a new billing entry form. Next we have reports. Now reports can also be scanned or they can be downloaded from Alberta Health Services, but only in the Edmonton region. Calgary is not there yet. Again, you can see all the different headings, the report date, which is the date of the report, and the batch date, which is the date the report was actually imported or scanned in, the type, and the specialist comment, and again, to see them, you just double click. I'll also point out that in all of the sections where they have these heading types, they're sort orders. So if I'm to do a single click on any one of these headings, it'll put, for example, this one would be lowest date to highest date, and I could double click and it'll go the other way. Under type, it would obviously go alphabetically, and again, double click goes the other way. Letters. Letters are letters generated from MediPlan, so sick notes, consult letters, referral letters, appointment no-show letters, etc. And again, it works the same way. I can double click to see a current letter. That will only allow me to send, print, and view. Again, if I want to make a change, I have to modify. And again, I can create a new letter as well by clicking on letter and then new. And it comes up with a new letter form. We have the referral section, which I will go over more in depth on its own in another video. But essentially what this is it's a referral tracking section. So you have the ability with this little new button over here, so you can create new referrals, new new MRIs and new CTs. What this does is it's just a tracking area, so once you've sent a referral, you can put it in here and track to make sure that it's actually done. And then moving on, the only other icon that is really going to be something you're going to be using is the appointment icon. Now what the appointment icon is just a list of appointments that that patient has had. You can see here again we've got the resource, which is the schedule, the date, the appointment time, the arrival time, the reason they're there, the status, whether it was canceled, bill, rescheduled, and the type of appointment it is. A few other things that I will mention you can access from the chart is the poem, which again the poem will have its own video, so I'll go more into depth with that later. The messaging button, which you will actually see all over MediPlan. So what this does is it quickly allows you to create a new task on this person, or a new message on this person, or you can show all the tasks on this person, or you can show all the messages on this person, or you can recall the patient. And each one of these sections I will go over in depth in their own video. We've got this Dropbox right here. What this Dropbox is a list of integrated forms. Now these forms are customizable per physician, as we do have Calgary forms, Red Deer forms, Edmonton forms, etc. So not everybody's going to want all of the forms. Now these are selected per physician on page 1 of the sign-on, which I will go through in the sign-on video, but essentially from here you can access any of these integrated forms. Finally, I'm going to go over the print button, which we refer to as the chart print button. By clicking on this button, what it allows me to do is it allows me to quickly print or fax all parts or different parts of the patient's chart altogether. So instead of having to go in and print each letter individually, I can come in here and say I would like this letter, I would like this letter, I would like to include this encounter, medications, just the current ones, the patient's history, their current problem list, etc. And I go through and click everything that I want to include, and then from here, from preview, print, and fax, I have 3 options. I can directly fax it, I can directly print it, or I can print it to a PDF, which will be stored on my hard drive. For example, if a patient is transferring and has hundreds of pages, instead of printing out the record, you can print it to PDF and load it on a CD, which I will, in fact, have more of those, a video on that by itself. From the patient's chart, you'll notice that there's a Find Patient button up here. So I can go from one patient's chart to another. So if I type the last name of a patient, it will give me a selection, and I can go to Test Care's chart, for example. Also from the schedule, you have the ability to do that under this Open Chart. So obviously, if your patient's in the schedule, the easiest thing to do is go directly to the chart. But if you are unaware of where a patient is, then you can look them up through this Open Chart area. Now, the patient search can be done by home phone number without the area code, patient healthcare number, chart number, birth date, which goes month, day, year, and of course last name. That is all for the chart.